In this video we're going to create a UV texture for our character. So first thing we want to do is click on our armature and come over to the little character tab and put the armature into the rest position. Make sure you're back on frame 0. I'm going to just left click on just our character layer to switch these other two layers off. I'm going to go 1. I'll zoom in on the character here. Now I'm going to click on the character and go tab. The UV texture, the way to think about it is sort of the opposite of what a tailor does, where he has a pattern, puts it down onto a fabric, cuts it out, and then stitches the fabric together into a piece of clothing. What we're going to do is put seams on the character and then unwrap our character into a flat plane so we can paint textures onto it in Photoshop. So because we want to do both sides of the character, we're going to cut the character in half to begin with, reapply our mirror, put our seams in, then reapply the mirror again, and that way it'll cut down on the amount of seams that we have to put in. So I'm going to go Z, so it's wireframe. I'm going to do a box selection to select this half of the character. So I'm moving it into the blue line, just letting go. I'm zooming in there to make sure that I've got it all. I can see there's a little face there that I've missed. You'll soon see now I've got a face over here selected, so I'm going to hold the shift and deselect that. I probably should have went A first to deselect all of the faces, but that looks pretty good. I might have missed a few, so let's go X and faces and cut those. Yes, I've missed a couple in here, so I'm just going to select them now and go X and faces. So now I've got a clean line, so I know my character's cut in half. So I'm coming over here to the modifier tab. I'll apply the mirror modifier. I'll just move it up using the arrows on the side, so it's above the armature, it's right at the top. I'll switch the clipping on. That looks pretty good. So I'll go Z again so I can see the whole thing. Now I'm going to go into edge mode or line mode to select these seams. I'm going to hold the shift and the alt key to select the seams around the shoulder. I'm holding the shift and alt just so I can select loops where they are available. And I'm right clicking of course. So now I'm going to go Control E. And this is where I can select the mark seam. There's a mark seam, there's a clear seam. Don't confuse them with the mark sharp and clear sharp. So we just want the seam, so mark seam. As soon as you do that, if I go A to deselect, you'll see it turns red. So we want to unwrap all the various parts we want to paint a texture on. To unwrap this arm, which is a bit like a cylinder, I need to hide another seam down the bottom here. So I'm going to go Alt right click. Now you can see that's actually selecting it all the way down there, and I don't really want that. So I'm going to go A and just select them manually. I'll hold the shift in. So now I'm just selecting these manually down the arm. And I want it to go around the inside of the wrist as well. So we can just separate that part of his jumper. So I held the Alt that time and got a loop. Just to check it, I go Z to have a look, and that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go Control E and mark seam. I'll go A, and you can see that's starting to work. Go Z, you can see. And we're getting both sides because we've mirrored it. Now I'm going to come up to the head. We'll do the hand in a moment. I'm going Z just so I can see what I'm working on. Now normally you would put a split right down the back of the character by going Alt, selecting that loop that goes right down the back of the character. We don't want it at the front, however, and we don't want it at the front of the face. We want to hide our seam at the back to unwrap the body, etc. So I'm going to go Z, and a good way to deselect is using the paintbrush tool. So I go C to select that. I can use the wheel to make it smaller or bigger. And by holding the shift down, you can deselect these edges. So I'm leaving it at the crutch, selecting it, deselecting it all the way up the front. I'm going to go, just right click and go 3 for a moment to make it a bit easier. And I'm going to go C again, hold in the shift and deselect all of this right up the way to the top of the head. I'm just going to go Z again so we can see. Now, that's how you'd normally do it for a character. But because I've got this hair here, I don't really want to split this hair. So I'm going to deselect this little bit on the hair by holding the shift. And now I'll go Control E and mark seam. So that turns red. So you can see that's put a seam all the way down the back to unwrap the body. Now there's a little bit more we want to do in the head here. Let's do one around the neck. Just to get to that, I'm going to go Z to make it a bit easier to see. Hold the Alt key down, select it so that's a loop, so it's fine. I'll go Control E and mark seam. I want to do one around the hair. So I'm going to hold the Alt key and the shift and select, just where I can select loops, it's doing it. Where there's no loops, it won't. So this is Alt and Shift at the same time. I'll go Z again. So it's missed a bit in here. Or I've missed a bit in here. Behind the ear. So again, Alt and Shift. It's almost got it. Still. Okay, so that's not what I want, so I'm just going to undo that. It's this one inside here that I need. So I'm going to go Z so I can see it. It's going to be a bit difficult. Let's go Z in here. It's that one there. So that worked better. So I've got all of the hairline. So Control E, mark seam. Okay, so I'll do the ears. So again, Alt click to try and select loops around the ear. This is just so it'll make the ear a separate piece. That sort of lines up anyway, so that should be fine. Let's go Control E, as long as they join up. Now, we want to split the ear as well, so I'm just manually going to, actually let's try an Alt. So I've selected that, so I'll split the ear. I might leave it connected at the top, so it just splits it up the side. So Control E, mark seam. Okay, I want to do around the nose, so I can do that as a separate texture. So Alt click on that loop, Control E, mark seam. And let's do the eyebrows as well. So Alt, click around those, Control E, mark seam. Okay, so let's go do the legs now. So again, we want to hide this seam, so I'm going to put it inside inside the inner leg. Let's select the Alt. So that's okay, but let's just deselect this last little bit. Whoops. holding the shift to do that. And let's select around the bottom where it meets the boot here as well. So I'm going to go Z so I can see that, and Alt and Shift. Okay, so I'm going to go Control E and mark that seam. Now, I want to do around the tops of the legs as well. So I'm just coming in here, Alt and Shift. I don't think it's a perfect loop, so I've got to come around and select in a few places and Control E, mark seam. I want to do the boots. A little bit hard to see, so I'll go Z. So I'll do around the go around there. There's a loop around the sole. So Control E, mark seam. Now I've got to join this up. So let's go down the back of the heel. That'll do. So the inside back of the heel to join those loops together. Control E, mark seam. It's all joining up, separating all of these parts. Now I think we've just got. We've just got the hands to do. So we'll come in here, we'll go Z. This takes a while, but just the way it has to be done. So again, this has got to join up. So I'm going to use the Alt where I can, but I don't think I can use it in this part. I'll use it inside the fingers. So I'm just manually selecting these. Now I should be able to use the Alt on the inside here. Where are we going to go? Let's keep it hidden down in here. I'm just positioning by rotating my view. So I'm selecting the Alt in here and the Shift just to get these inner parts done quicker. Just selecting the limited loops in there. Now I can't do the loop here because it'll do it all the way down the arm. So I've just got to do this part manually. Just holding the Shift. And this will connect up with the wrist, which we've already marked. So I'll go Control E, mark seam. Now, you could do around the fingernails. Let's do that. Let's go Z, just to see them a bit clearer. Actually, we should be okay. Just going A to deselect. They're just loops. So I'm just holding the Shift down, selecting all the loops at the same time. Right clicking on them, of course. And I'm going Control E, mark seam. So we'll have a look at that now. This is probably a good point to save. I'm just saving. I want two windows now so I can have a look at the UV editor at the same time as my edit window here. So I'm going to pull this serrated edge across, creating a second window. I'm going to come down and change the window to UV editor. Now I'm going to come back over to my edit window over here and go A to select all of my character, and I'm going to go U and hit the unwrap button. And I'm just on the wrong window here, so little bit better. So that's what that's giving me. Okay, so I can see I've made a few mistakes here. One being that we haven't applied the mirror. But I can also see that just before we do that, that I've included my inside of my throat here, which looks like a tongue coming out of this face. So we don't want that. But it should work. The rest should work okay once we apply the mirror. We're only seeing half of our UV. So I'm just going to pull this window across a little bit. I'm going to zoom in on my character again. Go A to deselect. I've got to put one inside the mouth. Inside the lips, basically. Just getting to the best angle. Let's see if we can select this as a loop. So that's still outside, so I want to go in a little bit more, so maybe next loop. This is to separate the throat out, mouth and throat out, which I don't really want. Yep, that should be good. So let's go Control E, mark that seam inside the lips. Let's save it again. We'll apply this mirror over here. We'll go Tab, back into Object Mode, apply the mirror. We'll go Tab again. To go back into Edit Mode, I'll go A to select our character. Now, another thing we want to do is come into our Materials Editor. Now let's see how our UV is working first. Let's go A, and we'll go U again, and unwrap. And that's looking much better. 2 legs, 2 arms, our body. This is our head up here. Let's see our eyes. That's our hair, I think. So this has probably got our throat and things, but we don't really need those. But it doesn't matter if they're there. So that looks pretty good. So we'll go into the material editor. I'm going to come back up to the skin, and basically I want to just going to go A, and I want to apply the skin texture to everything that I want the UV to work on. So, which is pretty much everything except the inside of the mouth and the eyes. So, I might actually select those items. Z to see that I can do it. I'm doing that by the materials, tongue, and the eye, and the pupils, the iris. Now I'll come across here and go Control I to invert that selection. So now I've got everything selected except the eyes and the inside of the mouth and throat. So now I'm going to go to the skin. I'll go Z over here so I can see it. And I want to assign that skin to the whole character. So that's where we're going to actually apply our UV texture. So I'm going to save again. It's going to look a bit weird for a while. Let's go, let's select that skin and we'll go U again and unwrap. So now we don't have the throat or the eyes in here on our UV. There's a few things we should do to the UV now. I'm just coming down to the UV control down the bottom here, and I'm going to go minimize stretch and just let go of the mouse for a moment. You can see the mesh is slightly moving, and what that is doing is evening the mesh so that when we paint our UV texture onto it, it looks a little bit better. So it's just about stopped. So I'm just going to click to finalize that. I'll save once more. Always good to save lots when you're doing this. Let's have a little look. So that's our head. That's one of our hands. Fingernails. Maybe that's our hair. Another one of our hands. Legs, arms, and our body. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to export this UV now so we can work on it in Photoshop. So I'm going up to the top to export UV. Left clicking on that, the computer's thinking about it. And I'm going to come up to the top here and just call it character UV. That's saving it as a PNG, that's fine. UV and export UV. Okay, so in our next video we're going to open this template in Photoshop and paint it and then reapply that new texture to our character.